Welcome to Barbecue Elevated. Want to take your prime rib to the next level? Want to really up your game with it and make the best prime rib possible that all your friends will love and enjoy, and your family as well? That's what we're going to do today. We're going to make some smoked prime rib. Not only are we going to smoke this thing on the Franklin barbecue pit, but I'm also going to show you how it can be seared on the Franklin barbecue pit. And this right here is the end result. But first, we're going to take this all the way back to the very beginning, starting with yesterday with the dry brine. Here's our prime rib. This is what we're going to get prepared for smoking later. It's actually going to be tomorrow when we do the smoking. But for dry brining, the reason why you want to dry brine is if you want to get a really rich, deep, salty flavor specifically into your meat. The other reason why you can do it is if you're cooking poultry with skin and you want to dry the skin on the poultry out, like on a chicken, turkey, chicken wing, any poultry that has skin on it, you're going to want to dry brine, dry the skin out, and that's what helps to make it crispy while you're smoking it. Otherwise, it's really, really difficult to make skin crispy. It usually just kind of gets mushy and soft and not great. Anyways, for dry brining though, I like to really dry brine steaks. Typically, you want to do it at least a few hours before you cook it, but if possible, it's fantastic to do it a day in advance, especially on a thicker piece of meat like a prime rib, like what this one here is. You can do it on pork loin as well. You can do it on beef tenderloin. Really any of those larger pieces of meat that you just really want to get some good flavor into. I love doing it on pork loin. Love doing it on briskets and beef tenderloin. All of those are great. And with a prime rib, since essentially it is steak, it just hasn't been sliced up yet. It's ribeye, right? It's ribeye steak. It just hasn't been cut up yet into steak. That's where I like to dry brine my prime rib, because it really helps to enhance that flavor, enhance the overall quality of it. Not a lot that you need for dry brining. Really, you just need the meat, of course. You need then a rack, something to put it on. You don't need the rack while you're doing the actual salting of the meat. You just want to keep it on a rack and then put it on a baking sheet, something like this. Put it on a baking sheet after the fact. Air can get underneath it to dry it out, and so it's not just sitting there soaking it in blood. That it's actually there's an air gap between the meat and the pan, so that it can help to dry that out and help to really get the salt into it. Something you can also do, if you want to, is you can get a meat tenderizer. I have a meat tenderizer. I don't typically find that I need to use it when I'm dry brining a day in advance. However, if I was doing this a couple hours before, I go through and puncture this with a meat tenderizer. That really helps to get the salt down into the meat quicker. But because I'm waiting a day before I start smoking this, I don't really feel like I need to use a tenderizer, because the salt's going to work its way into the meat just from sitting for a while. The other thing sometimes you'll need is just a knife to do some basic trimming. If you have any pieces that are hanging off, if you have one side that's like really thin or just too thin, you want to just really cut that off, because it's just going to dry out in smoking. It's not even worth wasting your salt on trying to dry brine it. Just cut it off, get it out of the way. You really want your prime rib to just be the same thickness and consistency all the way through. This one came this way, so I don't really feel like I need to do any trimming. It's consistent and thick all throughout. I'm not really worried about it. So that's a tip too, I guess, if you want, when you're looking at your prime rib, if you don't want to waste money on product you're just going to cut off and throw away, buy one that just already looks like it's consistent all the way through, doesn't have any thin ends on it. So of course, marbling is a big thing that really matters. Fat cap on top of the meat matters. This is the bottom side of it, so this is where you can see where the ribs would normally be. This one ended up being boneless. I do a bone-in prime rib also. I feel like both can be made really great. For me, I just don't really like to deal with the bones, at least not right now. So I bought one without the bones already. Just get them out of the way. This is about a 16.5 pound prime rib as well. So anyways, let's get started with the dry brine. no trimming to do, nothing to do. Really, it's just a matter of getting out our salt. I like to use kosher salt. You could use table salt if you wanted to, but I like kosher salt just because it has the bigger grains on it, so you can see where you've already got covered with salt, because we really want to cover everything here. You can kind of go two ways with getting the salt on. One, you can just pour the salt out into a cup and just use your fingers and just kind of sprinkle it over the top if you want to, or you can just use the bottle here, which is what I like to do, and just use the shaker to just shake it across. Either way, both same result, just two different methods. So what we're going to do is just start by coming across here, just come all the way across. Really want to get every bit of this meat. It's okay to go a little bit heavy, because this isn't going to stay on the outside. This is going to work its way down into the meat. So heavy is fine. You're not going to overdo it. And then just kind of go through on the sides, get all of the sides done. And I like to just kind of pat the salt in. I feel like that just kind of helps you get started. Just make sure it's in the meat. I'm going to turn over here and come do this side real quick. And just kind of use my hand to help make sure I'm not wasting a bunch of salt and not missing. Use the hand to kind of deflect the salt into the meat. And if you notice, I'm only using my left hand, of course, for this, keeping my right hand clean because it's touching a bottle that's got salt in it. So go ahead and just get all of this. Okay, so now we've done the bottom side. Now the fun part, trying to flip this over one-handed. Okay, got it flipped over. Go ahead, get this end real quick. And then just come across the top. Just get it all over. And if you notice, the fat cap on this one, it's all the way across, but it's not super thick. If it was a super thick fat cap, I would probably trim it, kind of like what I would do with a brisket, where I'd want it to be about a 1/4 inch thick. This one came this way, and so it's it's not super thick. It's not super heavy. It's going to render really well, really nicely in the smoker, so I'm not too worried about the fat cap at all. It's going to work out really well. It's going to taste great. So now we've got it salted. Now all we need to do is just put it on a baking pan and then throw it in the fridge. Let it sit until we're ready to pull it out to smoke it. So you're going to kind of notice, and I'll show tomorrow when we get this out and pull it out for smoking, get it ready for seasoning for that. But it's going to kind of change color. It's going to you're going to see it kind of go from like a dark red to more of a brownish color. It's okay. It's what we expect. It's what we want to see. That's the salt doing its job. That's what dry brining is. Leave any comments in the comment section about dry brining process. If you have any questions, ask questions there. I do respond to people's comments. I do answer people's questions when they have them. If you have any suggestions, or if you want to see anything else, please comment there as well. I take all those things into consideration, and I do pay attention to the things that people say.